Now we're going to shift over to football, and I want to quickly give a little bit of housekeeping as it pertains to football. And I just mentioned the plan for football is what we're going to do is on Wednesdays, there's going to be an episode coming out breaking down the game that's happening that week, right? So next Wednesday, the game will be breaking down that Western Kentucky game. Then the day after the football game on Sunday is the plan for when the post cap will come out. It will either come out that Sunday or first thing on Monday morning. The plan is to have them come out most Sunday afternoons. I'm sure there might be a couple of times that I have to come out on Monday morning. Like I do know that I'm going to be traveling one of the weekends. So I may not have time to record prior to Monday morning. But the plan is either Sunday night or Monday morning. The recap of the week prior is going to come out. So like I said, previews on Wednesdays, recaps on either Sunday afternoon or Monday morning. So, as it pertains to basketball, there have been a few things that have been going on. Want to start with kind of what happened first. So, J.J. Watt came and spoke to the team on Wednesday. And, this is not super uncommon that you have, people that have been successful in the NFL or successful in their careers come to speak to the football team. But what was unique about this, and the reason I bring this up, is the photos that were posted when J.J. Watt came, that were posted to Twitter, gave us a little bit of an extra sneak preview into what DeBoer's office looks like. And I want to, give a shout out to Blake Byler. If you've heard, listened to the podcast much, you know that I do shout him out quite often. I think he does great work. He actually just joined On 3. But he did a perfect side-by-side, and I'll show it here, that kind of shows Saban's office versus DeBoer's office. And the big thing that you'll notice with the two offices is Saban's office feels much more of kind of a, wood grain, gentleman vibe where it kind of feels almost like a cigar lounge. Versus DeBoer's office is much more new age, much more modern, minimalist. Obviously, two very different styles of offices. Not to say one is better than the other, but definitely just two different people, two different offices. And the big kind of visual representation of this is that DeBoer is not trying to be Coach Saban. He's not trying to copy Coach Saban. And that's great, right? We've talked about that at length. There's an episode that I did all about this, that DeBoer and Saban are not the same person. They're doing practices different, with Saban having afternoon practices and DeBoer going to morning practices. Their temperaments are different, with Saban being a little bit more, in your face and aggressive versus DeBoer's a little bit more laid back, right? There's very much differences in these two coaches. And I think that that's a good thing, right? What you don't want when you hire a coach to follow a legend is you don't want them to think that they have to be the same person as that legendary coach. Because when they fall in that rut, then that causes, them to potentially, fall into pitfalls, especially if that isn't who they are as a coach, right? And at the end of the day, Saban is not who DeBoer is as a coach, and that's okay, right? They can both be successful in their own right. So I thought that this was a really big thing. Like I said, it kind of gave us a little bit of additional sneak preview into his office, and I thought that it was really cool. The other thing that we want to talk about is the scrimmage. The scrimmage happened on Saturday. DeBoer spoke after the scrimmage, and there was a few, kind of things that we've heard discussed by people that were there. DeBoer mentioned that there were a few takeaways, and that the defensive backs were doing a really good job kind of up on the wide receivers, and also that the wide receivers, that the return guys, he really liked how Jeremy Bernard is doing, but thought that there were some additional guys, be it Ryan Williams, Jalen Mbakwe, even Kendrick Law, that potentially are going to have a chance back there returning kicks, whether it be punts or kick return. And but really liked how Jeremy Bernard is doing so far. Some other things that were discussed that I've seen kind of put out there is not just were the corners and defensive backs kind of doing a good job up on the receivers, but it sounded like, if the receivers were coming across the middle or, were in traffic, that the corners and defensive backs were really, laying the wood to them, hitting them as hard as they could to try to, break up passes and such. And it really sounds like that was something that was discussed, that, there were some definitely hard-hitting guys out there. I know Malachi was mentioned with this, but there were some big hits that were delivered by the defensive backs in trying to break up passes and stuff. So it does sound like, obviously there were some, good things that happened in this. The other two things I want to discuss as it pertains to the offensive line is Jaden Roberts did have a slight injury, left the scrimmage, and there was a post by his mother actually on Twitter saying that he had a slight procedure. DeBoer and his mother both seem to think he's going to be completely fine, and that he's going to be good for game 1. So that's awesome news to hear. And then DeBoer did mention that the right tackle battle is probably not going to be able to be fully decided until after the first game, right? Or at least, when we get into game time, because he thinks that there's going to need some live reps before we fully decide who wins that battle. But it sounds like, both of them are pushing each other, which is awesome. But that right tackle battle will not be fully decided before the first game, and that's obviously okay. That's not super uncommon for a position battle to kind of leak into the first couple of weeks of game time. So just want to discuss those. And then now